watching WUFT Midday.
This noon, fans are mourning the sudden death of One Direction star Liam Payne, who police say fell from the third floor of his hotel room Wednesday. This is WFT Midday. I'm Tanya Fedak. There has been an outpouring of shock and grief from musicians and fans around the world over his untimely death. Payne was staying at the Casa Sur Hotel in the Argentinian capital when police say he died after falling from the third floor. He was in Argentina for the concert of his former bandmate Niall Horan earlier this month. The two pop stars were part of the famed British boy band One Direction, which also included Harry Styles, Zayn Malik, and Louis Tomlinson.
I'm very nervous about this news because I'm a fan of One Direction. Since I was a kid, I went to the concert. I'm from Brazil. I went in to the concert. I'm nervous, really nervous, because it's my idol, and I'm shocked. I don't believe this is happening.
Payne leaves behind his one son, Bear, born in 2017 to his former partner, Cheryl Cole. He was 31 years old. As the election draws nearer, both presidential candidates are making plays for unlikely allies. Vice President Kamala Harris sparring with a conservative news outlet in a sit-down interview, and former President Donald Trump making waves at an all-female town hall where he dubbed himself the father of IVF. And as Alice Barr reports, the candidates will be back out on the campaign trail today as the race for the White House continues.
I'm offering a plan to deal with
Vice President Harris in her first formal interview with Fox News making her pitch to Republicans hesitant to vote for former President Trump.
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
In testy exchanges over immigration.
The 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished.
The vice president zeroed in on the bipartisan border bill former President Trump opposed.
If a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border.
And defended her shift from more liberal positions during her 2019 presidential bid.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
The sit-down followed a Pennsylvania appearance with former Republican officials, including one-time GOP Congressman Adam Kinzinger, calling out Donald Trump's rhetoric as he appeared in a Fox News town hall with all-women voters. Working to make up ground with female voters, the former president stressed his support for in vitro fertilization.
I'm the father of IVF, so I want to hear this question. We're totally in favor of IVF.
And called some states' abortion laws too tough.
They're too tough, and those are going to be redone.
Former President Trump also appeared in a Univision town hall voicing support for legal immigration.
We just want them to come in legally.
While not backing off false claims about Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Election rules for the battleground state are unconstitutional. Two of the controversial new rules would require county election officials to conduct a reasonable inquiry into election results before certifying them, and allow election officials to examine all election-related documentation created during the conduct of elections before certifying results. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Thomas Cox wrote in Wednesday's ruling that the court here declares that these rules are illegal, unconstitutional, and void. President Joe Biden is heading to Germany today after postponing the trip last week due to Hurricane Milton. The White House says Biden won't meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky during the trip. But as Amy Kiley reports, Ukraine is likely a focus of the visit.
We have been gratified by the coalition of more than 50 countries we have put together to support Ukraine.
President Joe Biden travels to Berlin today, where he's expected to discuss support for Ukraine with European leaders. Officials say he's set to meet with the German, French, and British heads of state tomorrow. Those countries in the U.S. make up the so-called European Quad. They're some of Ukraine's top arms suppliers.
Every country has to make its own decisions based on their capabilities, based on their budgets, about what they can do.
The trip comes a day after the White House unveiled another $425 million in military aid for Ukraine. But this might be a precarious moment for the war-torn nation. American support hangs in the balance as the U.S. election approaches. And the Ukrainian president's victory plan isn't necessarily getting the international support he had wanted.
We hear the word talks from our allies much more often than the word justice. Ukraine is open to diplomacy, but to the fair one.
At the heart of the plan is Ukraine's desire to join NATO, but the alliance has yet to invite the country.
And we continue to work with them about other measures that aren't included in the plan that we believe would position Ukraine to win on the battlefield and ensure a just and lasting peace.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Today after approving another $4.5 billion in student debt relief. This latest round impacts more than 60,000 public sector workers, including teachers, nurses, and firefighters. The borrowers qualify for debt relief through the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. It was created nearly 2 decades ago, but the Biden administration has expanded it to make it easier to qualify. Since taking office, Biden has canceled more than $175 billion of debt for nearly 5 million people. That's about 11% of all outstanding federal student loan debt. Police in a central Florida town are conducting an investigation after a man and a woman were found dead of suspected carbon monoxide poisoning in their home on Tuesday. People living in a Tavares mobile park got concerned when they hadn't seen their 2 neighbors since Hurricane Milton. When police were called to their home for a well-being check Tuesday, the couple was dead. Perry Lines was 67 and Constance Albrecht was 85 years old. Detectives say there were no signs of foul play, but they believe the couple died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Neighbors say they were using a generator after the neighborhood lost power during the storm.
They did what every other resident would have done if they had a generator. The only difference is, they put it inside a closed shed. We always recommend maybe 20 feet from the residence outside. Don't put gas cans near the generator as well.
First responders say people should also keep a carbon monoxide detector in their home. It's been 1 week since Hurricane Milton hit the Gulf Coast of Florida as a major hurricane, and analysts believe it could take years for the Tampa area to fully recover from the devastation left behind. State and federal governments have swiftly launched recovery efforts to assist with damage. FEMA has approved over $620 million, including $16 million to assist individuals in affected communities. The U.S. Small Business Administration has offered over $48 million in possible disaster loan funding to survivors of both Helene and Milton. The administration also has hundreds of staff working in communities across 6 states and 48 disaster recovery centers. And while the rains have subsided, the cooler air is settling in. This is a live look at I-75 in Paynes Prairie in Alachua County, where the ride is smooth and the day is beautiful. But there is a noticeable nip in the temperature outside. Let's get over to UF forecaster Sienna Silvest with more on how long this fall-like weather will stick around.
That's right, Tanya. We are expected to see these cold temperatures tomorrow as well as early Saturday. Now, taking a live look here outside of campus, blue, gorgeous skies, not a cloud in sight. Our temperatures here on campus at 63 degrees. That feels like it 52, significantly colder than our actual temperature. We are feeling some wind there from the north at 13 miles an hour with those gusts at 16 miles an hour. Now, those temperatures all across north central Florida. We are 66 here in Gainesville, 64 there in High Springs, a little bit cooler there to our north, 61 in Lake City, and then a little bit hotter there on that eastern coast. And with these cold temperatures, we are seeing very cold temperatures in the morning. 47 there in Gainesville that we felt earlier. We are seeing a little bit of a dip and into the 30s there in those northern cities of Live Oak and Lake City, 38 and 37 respectively. Now, we are not the only ones that are feeling these cold and low temperatures. All of the southeast right now is feeling those effects of that cold front. Now, it is currently located off the southeastern coast of Florida, but as it moves through, it's going to take that cold temperature with it, but it will stick around as we go into the night. Around 6 o'clock, it's going to be around 67 degrees. 8 o'clock, a drop in temperatures at 57 degrees. Then those temperatures will bottom out there in the higher 40s, higher 40s, lower 50s. Now, as we take a look at the tropics, the National Hurricane Center has identified 2 areas of interest, 30 and 20% chance of cyclone formation respectively in the next 7 days. Now, these are of interest because they are associated with a low pressure system, but for us here in Florida, they are not of attention. Now, it is homecoming week here in UF at 9 o'clock. Expect those light north winds with temperatures in those upper 50s. 11 o'clock, hardly a cloud in the sky. Temperatures bump up to the upper 60s. And then at 1 o'clock. Those blue skies are going to stick around, as well as they're on game day on the weekend. Those temperatures are going to be a little bit higher on Saturday. But as we go into the weekend and into next week, expect those temperatures to do an increase as we go into next week. Those highs are going to bump up from those upper 70s to those lower to mid 80s. And notice no little to minimal rain. So as you gear up for this weekend's game day, grab that jacket.
It's considered a developmental.
When Allison Burke's daughter started struggling to pay attention, a family doctor thought it might be ADHD. So this mom took her high schooler to be tested.
It sounded very familiar. And so through her diagnosis, I decided to go ahead and go through the testing process myself.
Turns out they both had ADHD and had been suffering with symptoms. Just like in children, the disorder can cause problems in daily life for adults, including having trouble paying attention, getting distracted, disorganization, procrastination, poor time management, difficulty remembering daily tasks, frequently losing things, and being forgetful.
I just kept feeling so seen and validated for the first time in my adult life.
Health experts say there are many reasons someone may not be diagnosed with ADHD until adulthood, but it's never too late to seek a diagnosis because treatment can help make day-to-day life easier, says psychologist Justin Bartarian with the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center.
We're thinking about a pattern of symptoms that have been consistent throughout your life that significantly impact your functioning.
Burke now realizes she struggled as a child, but after diagnosis and treatment, she says her life's been changed.
I always tell people it's kind of like it just quiets down my brain and my body so that I can have that energy to focus on implementing those other tools that I've learned through therapy.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
ADHD is diagnosed differently in adults than in children. For those who suspect they have symptoms, psychologists recommend talking to your primary care provider who can do initial screening and, if need be, refer you for a more comprehensive evaluation. Weekly jobless claims fell last week after seeing a significant increase the week before. The federal government reports first-time applications for unemployment benefits decreased by 10,000, reaching 200,000. This accounts for the effects of Hurricanes Milton and Helene. Economists expected those events to push claims higher. Meanwhile, those who have filed for unemployment for at least 2 weeks rose by 9,000 to 1.87 million. Economists look at the weekly jobless claims report for signs of how the labor market is faring. As the election nears, dating apps are helping users match with potential partners based on their political beliefs. Last month, Tinder introduced profile stickers for users to share if they will be voting in the election and what issues are important to them. Meanwhile, OkCupid added a dozen new matching questions that focus on voter behavior. These questions shift away from some of the app's previous questions, which featured more policy and candidate-specific questions. Now, let's take a look at what's coming up tonight on First at 5 on Channel 5. Right now, Gainesville city leaders are discussing a new affordable housing project called Jesse's Village. A crew is at their meeting and will break down the decision. Plus, 2 UF colleges face off in a charity paper plane contest, how much they raised and who came out on top, and nearly $175 billion in student loan forgiveness. We'll break down who's eligible for relief. Before we go, one last check on the weather.
That's right, those temperatures are going to increase as we go into the weekend with little to no rain. Grab that jacket for this weekend's homecoming.
Thanks for joining us for WUFT Midday. We now join Sports Scene with Steve Russell, live on WRUF Radio and right here on WRUF-TV, Channel 6.